Well, hello there. Welcome to another episode of Construction Executives Live. I am your host, Jeremy Owens, founder of US Construction Zone and Three Generations Improvements out in sunny Folsom, California, where it is a balmy 41 degrees for us in Northern California. That is chilly. That is almost to the point where you don't want to go outside. For the rest of you in America, you guys are like, that is a nice winter day. Well, welcome here. Thanks for being here. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all of those things. We have another great show for you today. I had a couple quick thoughts for you. The first being, this is a holiday season. We're right in the middle of it right now in December, and I want to acknowledge a couple things. One, this is a time for a lot of us that it brings a lot of joy, happiness, friends, family, all those things. But for many of us, this is not a great time. For many of us, this is a time of pain, maybe thinking of lost loved ones. Maybe family situations are not great. So I want to recognize that because, we spend a lot of time with our coworkers and our peers. For a lot of us, we spend more time with our coworkers than we do our own family. So it's time to treat them like family, check in with them, make sure everyone's doing okay this holiday season. Like I said, I want to acknowledge those folks that are not in the best place, and just we need to do better as owners, as people, to check in on those folks and make sure that everyone's doing great this holiday season. What we try to do at US Construction Zone is not only connect you guys as an executive staff, as managers. We also want to bring you content that's valuable. And sometimes that content is things that are hard to talk about, things that haven't been discussed in the construction industry. And sometimes it's content that is just top of mind because we all struggle with it every day, all day. And this is one of those subject matters today. Hiring, attracting, and retaining top talent. The construction industry has not been good at that. Honestly, maybe the worst out of any industry in the US today. So this is going to be a content that's going to be very valuable because we all deal with it on a very daily basis, and it's very apropos to our current society, especially with us trying to retain talent, trying to get new talent to the construction industry. So we have some great folks at the Contractor Consultants here today to not only give us their insight on what they're seeing from the industry in terms of the labor and talent industry, but also some tools, tips, tricks for us to be better as a staff, be better as managers and owners, so that we not only attract that top talent, get them on our staff, but keep them and retain them for a long time. And please watch till the very end, because at the end, the Contractor Consultants and their team have come up with a very cool offer, a very generous offer that I would like you guys to take advantage of. So please stay till the end, and they're going to introduce that towards the end of the show. So with that being said, we'll get right into it. We have our guests here. We have two that are going to be joining us at the same time today. So let me start with Matt. But Matt DeBarra is a fourth generation Mason who discovered his passion for the construction industry when he was just 9 years old, working on a job site with his father. After graduating from UMass with a degree in construction management and environmental design, Matt embraced his family's legacy and established his own masonry company in Los Angeles. But as his business flourished, he witnessed many of his colleagues struggling to navigate the notoriously turbulent construction industry. Matt co-founded the Contractor Consultants as a way to share his passion and experience with other contractors who lack the skills, resources, or knowledge to achieve the success they deserved. The Contractor Consultants, Matt also set out to solve the single biggest pain point experienced by all contractors, and it's true for me as well, recruitment. That led to the Contractor Hiring Course, a comprehensive, hands-on, results-oriented, online, on-demand resource specifically designed to help contractors find, vet, hire, and retain that top talent. We also have the operations manager of the Contractor Consultants, Chris Bloomberg, who has over 20 years of experience in the trades, from starting out as a carpenter in the field to working up the ranks at a corporate headquarters at one of the nation's largest home remodelers. As operations manager at TCC, Chris is always striving to help contractors succeed at growing their business and hitting their goals. A lot of tongue twisters in there, fellas, but thank you for being here, Matt DeBarra and Chris Bloomberg.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I mean, we have a lot of valuable stuff to talk about, so let's jump right into it. let's start with you, Matt. How did you get started in construction?
Well, I started when I was 9. I had a lot of energy as a kid, and my dad was like, take him to work." So we're 4 generations in the business, and so great grandfathers on both sides, grandfather, father, uncle, and then me. And that old school mentality. My dad's like, "He's good, he can walk." And so I started when I was 9. But I do have an update to that story. I found this photo. I have a 1-year-old daughter, and we were going through. I was showing her pictures of daddy growing up, and I found this here. That's me. I don't know if you can see it. That's me in a bobcat, and I'm about
Okay.
2 years old. So I was told I was 9, but this looks like I was definitely a little younger than that when my dad had me out there. But I mean, literally, as long as I can remember, my background has been on job sites, growing in the industry, and fortunate and grateful to have been in it ever since.
Awesome. Awesome. What about you, Chris?
Well, I worked with my dad around the house growing up. He was not in construction really, but he was very handy and taught me quite a bit growing up. And then in high school, I got hooked up with some buddies and started working for their dad, building houses, stick framing houses, the old school way down at the Jersey Shore. And we built some really awesome big old houses out there and worked in some old houses and some historic towns in New Jersey. And I did that through college and worked with him. And then I, went out on my own for a few years and was the local handyman around town and did all kinds of kitchens and bathrooms and jobs for all my friends and family. And then I worked for a couple other cool companies over the years, commercial, residential, and I got hooked up with a really awesome company doing sales and marketing, actually from construction about 10 years ago. And I did in-home sales, face-to-face sales, in-home sales for a couple of years, then got into operations, measuring and inspecting, worked my way all the way up to the corporate headquarters and worked with thousands of customers, team members all over the country for, like I said, one of the largest home remodeling companies in the country. So great experience with them. I got hooked up with the contractor consultants almost a year ago now and rocking and rolling. I went from helping homeowners now to helping contractors. So on both sides of the game here. But happy to be here.
Both are a pain in the ass.
Yeah. I always used to say that the job wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for the customers, the project managers, the contractors, but happy to help, happy to be digging into the ditches here with the guys and finding ways to help contractors. It's been very exciting and awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So what inspired you guys to start the contractor consultants? And I guess, how do you serve the construction industry now?
So it started through a need, and then somewhat on accident. So I learned in Debarra Masonry how to do this well, how to find, vet, hire, and retain. But it happened with what I call the glass ceiling that I hit in 2018. So simply put, in 2018, all of the things that I used to rely on, we would sell work at 8 crews, 9 crews, go out every day. And there was a time I got this call from my site super. He goes, "Matt, so-and-so's late, 3rd time." I said, "You know the handbook, got to let him go. That's what it says. Verbal warning, written warning, gone." Right. And he goes, small caveat. He goes, "We're going to hit liquidated damages on this job." I said, "Okay, how much are we going to lose?" He goes, "Probably $100,000. And he goes, "On top of that, we're not going to be able to do this, this, and this." I said, "Well, we need to have a meeting." So we have a meeting. I'm going to lose to the tune of $500,000 worth of work, incoming work. I mean, it's literally, and he goes, "When you fire this person, this one's going to go with them." And he's like, "So before we make this decision, I can't make it for you. This is where we're at." And I remember feeling like I just lost control of everything. Family legacy business. I'm in LA. I'm working for the movie stars that I watched on TV. I'm like, I hit the American dream. This is it. Great grandfathers, they came on a boat and we did it. And I lost it all. Yeah. And so I set out in 2018 and I said, "You know what? I don't care what it costs. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to solve this issue," because I was doing my postings on Craigslist, postings on Indeed, and it used to be that I could just get people. It was easy. I could call up people I knew. "Hey, can you help out on this job? We're a little behind." All of that went out the window. And so I set out on this journey, and it really took about 3 years. Spent well over $1 million, countless hours, and just said, I'm going to figure out every single way that I can do this. I called my CPA. True story. I said, "What's the most amount of money I can spend? I'm going to put it in an account that won't hurt the business." They gave me the number, and I was like, I'm going into experiment mode. And so that was the root of how we then learned how to systemize and create all of this.
Very cool. Very cool. And obviously, Chris, you brought your experience from the remodeling side and working at a headquarters. You probably come across this subject matter all the time in your history as well, right?
Yeah, well, we were pretty fortunate at that company because that company focused more on hiring than anything else. So I got to experience what a really great hiring company can do and the potential and the possibilities of great culture, great growth, And then when I saw how most other contractors weren't using any of those tools and technology, I said,
Right.
I met Matt and his partner Luke. I said, these guys are on to something, and we can really help a lot of people. Because I was living in the good life. We had everything we needed. We had the culture, events, everything. And
That's
I said,
rare,
wow,
yeah.
not everyone's doing this. Yeah, it's a rare company. That company really thrives on hiring. And I said, I've learned quite a bit about it here, and I think I
Right.
can help a lot of other people too.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that we have, it's in the news obviously every day. Labor shortage everywhere, really. Every industry has labor issues, but the construction industry has had this labor issue for maybe 5, 10 years. So it's been an ongoing problem. And I think now, I guess the question for both of you guys is, how did we get here as an industry? And I guess where do you think we're headed in the next couple of years?
So there's a couple things that led up to this, and looking at a more narrow lens, the big shift was when we had the Great Recession, 2007, 2008. We lost 3 million construction workers. It went from 11.9 million to about 9 million. So huge shift. People said, I'm going back to school. I'm going to go get a job somewhere else. I'm done with this industry. A lot of people retired. The ones who hit the dot-com bubble and got through it said, you know what, I'm done. We're gonna go to Arizona. We're gonna go move to some warm weather place,
Right.
Florida, whatever. And so that was the first shift. And then quietly in the background of that, you had just the natural progression of people retiring. At the same time, in the backdrop, you had a big push for college education. Right, 2007 to 2014, 15, it was like, go to college. What school are you going to go to? Now, I'm a vocational student, so I went to a vocational high school. I also went to college, but I learned way more in the time growing up with my dad and at the vocational school than I did in college. But
Yeah.
so that caused a big shift. And then it really started to change right around 2016, 17, 18, when you had this decreasing labor force and you had an increased demand. So demand starting to get really high around 2018, 19, right around when COVID happened. And then it just exploded. Also, at the same time as all this, you have things like Uber Eats, TaskRabbit, Postmates. You have all these apps that are making it very easy for entry-level workers to make a good amount of money today, tomorrow, next week, but not necessarily a great amount of money in 3, 4, 5 years, because they're not designed for growth. They're not designed for retirement. They're designed for, hey, I need to make a little extra money and I can start doing it tomorrow. So there are all of these factors that just created this perfect storm where when COVID hit and demand just exploded,
Right.
it was like the perfect storm of us really, really, really feeling all of these things that were quietly building up in the background.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I guess where I'm trying to figure out is, obviously we have an aging workforce. Some of those folks are retiring. We're still struggling with the young people, the young folks. The vocational schools would be a nice add to our society. Talking about, the trades at a younger age would be nice. I think a lot of high schools still don't have wood shops, still don't really talk about this as an industry. Honestly, they don't talk about it. So it's like it still is very heavy college or nothing. So really, that does start as parenting, right? Talking to your kid and saying, "Hey, what are you good at? Like, let's figure it out," as opposed to everyone's going to college. And I think that, what are you guys thinking? In the next 5 to 10 years? I know this is a crystal ball and we don't know, but where do you guys think we're headed as an industry on our current trajectory?
I think we're heading towards a very, well, let me explain this carefully. So I think for those who are willing to innovate and learn, like everyone listening right now, it is literally a gold rush. It is like having a website in the .com era when this was just starting out. There's so much to be gained from understanding how to do this and do it well and being among the first to innovate it in your industry. So I think huge opportunity for those who are paying attention. I think that as an industry as a whole, if we don't learn and grow and adapt quickly, we're in trouble. I mean, we need to be able to compete with other industries. We need to be able to compete with Uber, with TaskRabbits, with all of these different jobs. We need to be able to compete with college. And right now, it's a tall order to do that. And I think overall, we're in trouble. But with that being said, I think if you're in your local market, there's a lot of doom and gloom on the big scale, right? When you talk about things nationally, right?
Yeah.
You look at the recession. Well, there were great companies that were founded during the recession. There were people who made a lot of money. So I think at a big, macro scale, we're in trouble, big trouble. The numbers don't lie, the trends don't lie. However, on the micro scale in your local area, if you're paying attention, you're hiring while you're recruiting, you are literally embarking on what I call the modern day gold rush.
Interesting. I like that positive spin on it. I think that, we kind of talked about it before, like as an industry, we haven't done well with so many things, but one of those things is just the hiring process, right? Just that part alone, just not only finding one, but being able to hire. So you guys launched and you're launching a very robust 72 module course called the contractor hiring course. And this is meant to assist us owners through this problem. So how did you construct the course, and when are you guys going to roll it out?
So the course officially, I believe it officially launched today, right, Chris? Like the official.
Sweet.
A lot of work.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a
And
lot
we
of
have,
work's
we'll
going
talk.
on, and today's the day.
That's why
Yeah.
you guys are a little bit sleepy, maybe.
No, definitely not. Yeah, no. So we basically we understood as we did all this that it's a system, and so it's really 5 key components you have to have. You have to have a clear understanding and a strong foundation before you embark on this journey, right? So it's asking yourself a couple key questions. If you ask yourself 3 simple questions, I believe you can break through what I call the glass ceiling, because we're as companies in 2018, I was in a glass box. The darkness was real. The when I moved my elbows, what I was feeling was real. But the beautiful part was I could punch through it. And
Okay.
so I think it starts with, I don't think I know, it starts with a strong foundation and clear understanding. And then you got to learn how to find, vet, hire, and retain talent. If you do these 5 things, you will not have an issue when it comes to hiring and retention in construction. But it's like baking a cake. One little thing that you do differently, one little thing that you add too much or you don't have enough of, the whole formula starts to fall apart.
Yeah, and Matt, you kind of mentioned that you talked to your CPA and you went in this little venture, right? Like, so what were you doing to find some of these things? Obviously, you're able to draw on your experience, which is super valuable. But did you talk to others? Did you research? Like, what was that like? Because I imagine that was a lot of research, a lot of time by yourself trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah, it was a ton of time. It was a dark time, to put it lightly. I mean, when you introduced the darkness of the holidays and some of the real things we're facing, it brought me back to that feeling of just this what felt insurmountable. But so the way we did it was we just started looking at. I broke it down into the most fundamental thing. I said, okay, where I'm a company, and in order to bring good people into my construction company, I need to have some things that are exciting, right? So I need to bolster, kind of like marketing, I need to bolster what I'm doing. So what are the incentives? Why would you come work for me? So we have part of one of the courses we talk about, would you work for you? This is a really fun exercise anyone listening can do. If you go online right now and you Google your company, is there anything exciting that shows up? Is there any PR? Is there a career page? Is there a career video, a 2-minute video that's showing you as the prospective employee, who you are, what your company is about? There's so many contractors that I've talked to, and you sit down with them and you're like, you are the most lovely human being I've ever met. But if I don't see that on your job posting, if I see hiring electrician, $25 an hour and a couple bullet points, I don't know that Jack, my electrician friend in LA, this guy is literally the nicest human being you've ever met. Like, he does such amazing things. I'm like, we have to take those things and show all these prospective employees. So having that strong foundation is crucial. And then it's that system of where are they? So my journey was, I asked myself, where are these potential employees and what are all the ways to find them? And so I literally whiteboarded it out. I'm like, who comes in contact with them? Okay, trade schools, universities.
Right.
All right, well, are they gainfully employed or not? Well, the answer is most likely gainfully employed, but not always. Maybe they moved, relocation. Maybe they just had something happen in their life and they're looking for a new job. So I took it from, like, I call it the no stone unturned finding system, where I literally was like, how can we teach and how can we do this in a way where there's no stone unturned? A funny story. I actually went as far, we found a better method, which I'll tell you, and listeners can actively use this. But I remember I went to my supplier and I said, hey, I want to put a billboard, because I realized a lot of my potential candidates were going, they were driving company trucks, my competitors, showing up, getting material loaded and leaving. Gainfully employed, you're A players, they have a driver's license, all these great things. So I said, okay, how do I get in front of them? So I asked my supplier and they said, no, that's favoritism. We can't do that. We have other people buying from here. We can't just put your billboard. I'm like, but I'll pay you. No, can't do that. Okay. So I leave the parking lot feeling defeated. Across the street, there's a guy spinning a sign for mattresses. You probably see where I'm going with this. It's like mattress closeout, we're going out of business. So I go over to the guy. I said, hey, what are you doing on Saturday morning? He goes, nothing. I said, no, I got something you're doing. I said, see across the street? I'm going to get you a sign. It's going to say top pay, masons and concrete finishers, ain't English and Spanish. I said, I want you to do the same dance, everything. So he does it. I'm not exaggerating, 17 phone calls in one day.
Wow.
Of potential employees. Now, what I ended up finding, and this was the beautiful part about all the testing, was that I obviously upset my supplier. He's like, hey, I told you we could do this. I said, all right. How can I make this a win-win? So we said, I said, how about this? I'll sponsor coffee and donuts every morning, Monday through Saturday, from your busiest times for 2 hours. He goes, all right, now you're talking my language. I said, okay. So I said, I'm going to put coffee and donuts. I'll get my team. We'll have the booth. We'll deliver it. Right. Eventually, we came up with better systems. And I said, in exchange for that, I just want to put cards that say DeBarra Masonry is hiring top pay. I said, a smaller version, what we call in the course a recruiting card, a smaller version of what you see on that sign. He said, yeah, that I can do. He's like, that won't upset anybody. And so if you're listening, that's something you can actively implement literally right now. You can think, what are my top 3 suppliers? Where are my, potential candidates going? But that's the evolution is we don't teach you to do the sign spinner thing because it's not the right thing to do. I made that mistake for you, but we found the way, we found the best way to do it. That's scalable, consistent, proven, and predictable.
I guarantee someone's going to try that. I guarantee.
The side one.
Yeah, back to the video thing. I mean, it's interesting because I have a similar experience in that some of my peers, I think they have great businesses, but for whatever reason, their About Us page, I think I have a theory on this, a working theory. Let me know what you think. I think they want to appear bigger than they are. So they don't want a picture of the owner and the family. They want to appear like they're a giant corporation. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. I think one, I think it's ego. I think it's ego related. I think they want to be bigger than they actually are. But the problem is that people buy people. They don't buy the thing necessarily. So you're cutting out what people want to see. They want to see the people. They want to see that, you don't look like a creep. They want to see that you have a history. They want to see that you coach soccer, and like, so I don't understand why that's been out of people's websites and the retaining part and finding part. Why do you think that is? Is my theory spot on, or maybe?
It's funny.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
It's funny that you say that, because when I worked for the largest company in the country doing home remodeling, they would say, don't talk about that. Just talk about the local office and how the local office, what we're involved with locally, and how the local team is a part of the community. And that's what when I was doing in-home sales face to face, that's what people responded to. They didn't want to be sold by the largest, a big corporate company. They wanted a local company with a local office where they know if they call or if they want to go down there, they can talk to someone. And that was key. And I talked to so many contractors, and they all want to have a family feel, and they're scared of a corporate feel, a lot of them, because it feels a little too big for their britches maybe. But it's definitely a good thing to have your face and a career video and your family. And when we do audits, for competitors, you'd be surprised how many companies aren't using those. And when you see the successful ones, they have the career videos in place, and they're engaging with people on a personal level. And it's really nice to see. It gives it a really nice touch.
Yeah.
We have that in the course. We talk about basically authentic messaging. So it's part of that clear understanding and strong foundation. But it's saying if you're one of the worst things we can do in hiring is we can misrepresent in the beginning. Because then if you do that, they're expecting certain things. It's like, well, you're this big company. What do you mean I don't get a 401k? Right? Or what do you mean I don't have this? You're not going to have a fruit bowl in the office? All big companies do that, right? So you start to create these incongruencies. And so we talk about the importance of authentic messaging and saying, I think in the course, we even have a section where we're like, look, if you're somebody who keeps a coffee cup on your desk and paper scattered, and you're going to have someone come in for an interview, don't make your desk look like it's not going to look for the rest of the time. Like the more authentic you can be, because you're essentially selling this potential candidate on a long-term relationship. And that's what's so beautiful about hiring versus sales. right? There's no sale that'll change your business as much as one great hire will. We could all be one great hire away. And so it's creating that consistencies, and what you said, Jeremy, is so insightful because it's so true. The authenticity as to who you are. If you're a small company, if you're one or two people, if you're an owner operator, if you're in the field, you have to show that. I mean, you have to. Because that's ultimately what they're buying. So whether they see it on the front end, if that's a turn off to them, let them figure that out early on. You don't waste your time.
Right. Yeah, setting expectations, right? I mean, how many times Chris, for you being in-home sales, if you overcommit and underdeliver, that's a recipe for freaking disaster. So
that's what was on the tip of my tongue. Over-promise, under-deliver. Do not set the proper expectations from the beginning. You set yourself up for failure.
Totally. So might as well just be honest, right? And then, so on these 5 steps, you have the clear understanding, and then describe the next one, which is find.
Yeah, I call it the no stone unturned finding system. So basically what we did is we said, look, one of the biggest fallacies in this industry that I found, and I was speaking at RoofCon, 2,000 contractors, and we're on a panel, there's 7 of us, and it was so fascinating. Everyone's given different tips, right? And you could see their backgrounds as to why they gave a tip. One's like more, oh, you need to have a really strong, compelling headline. The other ones, you need to this. The truth of the matter is you need to do all of them. There's no guarantee, right? It's almost like if you think of marketing, if I had a marketing method and I could put $1 in and get $2 out, and I have another method where I could put $1 in and get $3 out, would you stop the 1 to 2? The answer is no, of course not. You'd continue to do all of them. It's profitable. It's good. So, we look at all the different ways you can find candidates, from digital strategies, which are newer and cutting edge. Like one off the top of my head is geofencing. It's where you can put an invisible fence around your competitors, and you can actually show them, if they walk into that building, your hiring ads. So it's digital, it's cutting edge, and it's really, really unique. But there's tried and true methods. Like I just gave the coffee table example. I mean, these are simple. I mean, it cost me probably $30 a day, to get in front of literally my ideal candidate. And I'm just waiting for that one day that the boss said, hey, you're supposed to be here at 7:00 at 7:01. And they're driving in, they're getting their coffee, looking down, going, hey, there's a better way here. And even recruiter cards. So these are cards that I carry, and that all of our clients carry. And we talk about this in the course, how to design it, what to put on it. But it's basically a card that has your information, your hiring, and what incentives they get. And it's extremely powerful. I mean, we've had people find their hires from, being in a restaurant with their family, church, or any of these outings where, oh, my nephew just moved here. Oh, really? Well, we have an incentive. It's just so simple. So when you have to check all the boxes, though, in order for you, because in this climate, there's no one system that's going to get, or no one method that's going to get you what you want. That's why I call it the no stone unturned finding method, because you can't rely on just one.
Right. I mean, it's so true, right? It's like, this is what frustrates me about this problem, is that we've had this problem for a long time as an industry, and we always want others to solve it for us, right? We always want the government, or we want a program that just spits out these candidates, right? We want it right in front of us. But, to have like a recruiter card, like, it's a great idea and it's not hard, but it's just something that seems so challenging for so many people. Like, what? That's too much time. Well, then what are you talking about? Then your problem's not big enough. You know what I mean? So it gets frustrating when people want it handed to them, as opposed to having these strategies in place to go find it yourself.
The average recruiter for construction, the average recruiter makes about $15,000 to $18,000 per placement. You can Google in your local area, wherever you live, if you're listening, construction recruiter, you're going to find the first 10 pages filled with them. Why are they there? They prey on companies. Okay, and we talk about how to use recruiters in the course. Sometimes they're a necessary evil, but they prey on the ability. They prey on us contractors not planning ahead, not using these methods, not like you're saying, going and printing out a recruiting card. They're there when they're like, hey, when things hit the fan, we'll come and do it, and we're going to charge you $20,000 for it, and maybe find them, maybe not. So yeah, I think it's so important to just do these little things. And the nice part is they're little. It's a bunch of small things. Like, for example, one other one that I'd love anyone listening to implement is incentivizing your team. You can actually deputize your team members. So we've created a structure where essentially you ask yourself, well, what is it worth to you? Is it $300, $500, is it $1,000? What would you pay to have that position? And then have a meeting with your team and say, hey, look, we're hiring XYZ. Any one of you here are great. Anyone you're associated with, we would love to interview. Here's the incentive if we bring them in. And now if you have a team, even if it's 3, 4, 5 people, 7 people, you've done 2 things. Number one, you've made everyone feel great. You said, look, you're amazing. I want to basically clone you. That's why I want to work with your network. So it's a lift up for culture and retention. But not only that, you're incentivizing your team to go to work. So now when you're hiring at scale. You're not doing all the heavy lifting. So it's how do we create leverage? The coffee example is leverage. The recruiter card example is leverage. The example of deputizing your team and getting them to do the work for you is all leverage based. And so that's really what we're looking about. It's how do I create leverage in all of these different areas? And when you cast enough, lines in the water, eventually you're going to get bites as long as you're in the right pond with the right bait.
Right. Totally. I mean, my roots in the industry, like a lot like you, Matt. I mean, you could probably go back further, 1956, and you talked about some old school methods already. And I think back in the day, networking for them was always person to person, right? I mean, you didn't have, I talk about it all the time. You had a Rolodex, right, and you had a phone, not a cell phone. So a lot of times you had these events where you had that skin to skin contact. That was the same thing that you're talking about with your staff. That is how you found somebody else, is you ask people, hey, this is what I'm looking for. You know anybody? Like, because think about it. How else would you do it? Like even putting an ad in the paper was not an option for many folks. So talk about some of those old school methods that really I think we need to get back to in a lot of ways.
Yeah, referral bonuses are key. I got my job at the corporate company because my friend referred me. And referrals had a longer retention and performed at a higher level. Not because they were just, hey, my buddy, but because my referral who referred me mentored me, and we worked together, and he supported me. And he knew at 90 days, if I was there in 90 days, we would both get a bonus. So it created like a team, and then the more people you refer, you get an even bigger team, and it spreads out and spreads out. And then it's just like a community of like, hey, I know you. Hey, you're my friend.
Yeah.
And everybody's referring people, and they're getting bonuses, and everybody's happy about it. And there was some people at my last company who had like a second income because they would find 15, 20 people every year, and they would have a bonus bigger than some people's salaries.
Right.
So referral bonuses are huge to take advantage of.
Yeah. What about you, Matt? Do you have any other old school thoughts there?
There's tons. I mean, my favorite is to mix the old school with the new school too. So like we have a lot of old school methods that have like a little kind of modern cherry on top, if you will. So one example of that is stopping in on job sites. You drive and you see job sites, and you stop in, and especially if it's work you're doing. But a lot of these building permits and a lot of this work is actually public record. And so you can look this stuff up. You can say, okay, I'm a roofer, or I'm an electrician. Well, I want to do this type of work. Well, you can actually pull online and look for open permits of that type of work. And then you can drive to that address and actually, for the specific type of work that you're looking for, and pop in. That's the old school stuff. A lot of it is other people in the industry too. So if you're like, for example, us, masonry, concrete, we work around carpenters, electricians. If you're looking entry level, those people, there may be a carpenter and he passes up on somebody, because we're all hiring in some capacity.
Right.
So your complementary trades can actually do work for you too. You can take that same incentive and work with them and say, hey, through your hiring process, if you come across anybody, typically it's better on the entry level side, right? Because if a carpenter's hiring for a skilled carpenter, and I'm an electrician, I'm the likelihood that it's like, oh, this master electrician applied for my high skilled carpentry job. Not so much. But on the entry level, how do we get entry level workers in and excited? You can do that through deputizing or incentivizing, as Chris said, your other workers that you work with. So it's really a lot of simple things that are, if done well, right? What's the incentive you offer? How do you approach them? When do you follow up with them? There's like these certain little levers that you have to pull in addition to the concept for it to really maximize. But yeah, I mean, none of it's rocket science. And the beautiful part is none of it takes a ton of time. It's just little outputs of effort sporadically in the right place.
What are you finding as some good incentives? What moves the needle for a lot of folks, especially for your own staff?
Yeah, the funny thing is we talk about this in the course, is it's based on the person. So I early on when we were building out this, and I was using this grassroots, I was at the doctor's office, and I was just doing like a routine checkup, and I'm talking to the male nurse, and I could see he had a Dodgers keychain. So he's telling me about how his cousin just moved here. He's a young kid. He's got a lot of energy. We're trying to figure out what to do with him. I said, well, we're hiring. I said, and if it did work out, I said, we heavily incentivize it. And I said, I don't, maybe like Dodger tickets, something like that, if you can make it happen.
Right.
He goes, you're kidding. I said, yeah. I was like, if this works, I'd be happy to, if you have a certain seat that you like, or he's like, I love the Dodgers, and I could see from the keychain. And so I think the key here, the biggest takeaway is, how do you do it in a way where it's unique to the person? Because if you can personalize it to them, some people it's money, it's $200, $300 cash, that never fails. But taking a more personalized approach and asking them, hey, is it a sports game? Is it a night out with your wife? Is it a massage? Like what would make you what would motivate you to want to go out and do this?
100%.
Right. What does that look like? And just ask.
Yeah, it's sales. You have to listen and then cater to the person that you're listening to.
Right.
Whatever the interest is, you just have to pick up on that and put that in my pocket later.
It reminds me of just like you, Matt. I went with ride-alongs with my dad, so he would walk into someone's home and he would be looking around. And I'm like, what is he doing? He was looking on the walls and looking at shit to be able to bring something up, Chris.
You gotta do a warm up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, I see that you love lighthouses. I was on a lighthouse. So it's just an icebreaker, but it's just something to start the conversation. But so true. I mean, all these things are like you said, they're not rocket science, but it just seems like so many of us go and put an ad somewhere. Pick your place. You put an ad in, and you call it good. What are some of the challenges there? Are people even going there? Is your talent even going to those websites to even look at your ads?
They are. It's the biggest takeaway is knowing how to do things well in a proven process. Because if you just go in and you write, I'm hiring, I can't tell you the amount of headline testing we've done, the amount of basically the body of the ad we've done. And we found these levers that actually work. And so the career video is huge, because seeing that 2-minute video is absolutely crucial. Also, one of the simplest ways, and this is an actionable one that anyone listening can do, is, so imagine for a moment you're in a company and you say, okay, I have it could be sales, it could be in the field, but you've got an A player, what we call an A player. And you say, the way we ask is, we say, who would you want to clone in your company? If you had a cloning machine, who would you clone? All right, well, great. So we want to go and hire that person. So the easiest thing to do is write the ad out the way you typically know. Obviously, in the course, we teach you, how to do it and structure it, headline, the whole nine. But you write the ad out, and then you sit down with this person. You say, hey, would you click this headline? If you're on Indeed or you're on, whatever it is, Craigslist, does this excite you? And what we found is, for example, in sales positions, if you put the pay in the headline, you're going to notice, to give them 2 examples, hiring salesperson for XYZ company or whatever. If you take that headline and you put it next to hiring salesperson, make up to $120K a year, and you say, which one of these would you click? Because they're potentially money motivated, they go, oh no, I would definitely 120 grand. That's great. I would click that one. And so now you're doing testing, but it's so simple, because you're taking the people so you have them read it and you say, what would excite you about working here? Or what do you enjoy about working here most? And so now you can take those nuggets and embed them in the ad. And now you're putting that ad, you're amplifying everything you do. And I think that's why I'm so excited about the course, is because we've done all that testing, where essentially we've done that heavy lifting, because you can have a 10 times higher pull rate from an ad just based on doing a simple exercise like this.
Yeah. Makes total sense. The next step, after you have that clear understanding, you find them. How do you go ahead and vet them?
Well, so this is where we kind of realized the system part, because now that your finding process is so robust and you have all these people, you have to be able to sift, sort, and screen quickly. So we developed ways, a few questions that you can ask for what we call an informal interview. So it's informal, formal, and then there should be a skills assessment component. And I think the biggest part is that skills assessment. So anything field related, what we recommend is you actually bring them to your office, pay them for a day or half a day, and have them build or do something that they say they can do. Right. So you're avoiding the making the wrong hiring choice, because everyone says, oh yeah, I can wire an electrical panel, or I can, plumbing, yeah, no problem. It's like, great, here you go. Here's some solder, here's a pipe, half a day, we'll pay you $100. Have at it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I imagine that this is a tough if, like you said, if you do have a robust program and you're starting to get some candidates in, that's an important phase, right? Because then you got to like quickly start figuring out who's my talent, because they're looking for work, right? I mean, how much time you got? You don't have that much time. So what does that informal interview process look like? What kind of things are you asking them? What are you like trying to get to the next step? I guess I'm curious.
So it's like, and Chris, I know loves this part too, but it's like speed to lead. So if you think of marketing, client comes in, you want to get to them right away. So it's reaching out right away, making contact, making sure that they have your basic qualifications, and you're doing this for two reasons. Number one is you want to be able to take anybody that is a gold nugget candidate, meaning they're like, oh my gosh, this person is absolutely amazing. They're exactly what we're looking for on paper. And you want to be able to have them skip some steps. You don't want to have them go through that whole process for exactly what you said, which is I might lose them.
Right.
It's like, oh, we got our first round interview, our second round interview. Oh, then we're going to have you. It's like, great. In a week and a half, they're hired because they're awesome. They just moved from X, Y, Z. So you want to get to them right away. You want to ask them a few basic questions that we show you how to come up with, which is, do you have a driver's license? Maybe one. How long? Like some basic nuggets of experience. That's all you're really looking for. And then you're figuring out, okay, where do they fit? Is this a hot, warm, or cold candidate? And then you can figure out where you move them in the next step. Do they follow the normal hiring path, or do I literally bring them to the back of the line because they're a dream candidate and I want to make sure that I move through quickly?
Gotcha. No, that makes total sense. So I think we talked about this a little bit before, where, the industry, sometimes some of us can hire, not that great. We hire them, and then we give them a ride along. We give them some ideas of like what we are as a team, and then we cut them loose. And really, that's like a lot of times the last time they meet the owner, the last time they meet this manager, they're done. So essentially, the owner thinks, I did it, we're done. So now we hired that position. Now I'm moving on back to focus on my other stuff. This is a key part. I mean, you're missing that step on making sure they can succeed.
Yeah, for sure. You want to be able to onboard them and train them and set them up for success, and really have a process to bring them people in, make sure that you're providing them all the information that they start to feel the team, the culture immediately. It helps when you have a couple people, you can bring them in at the same time, have a training group where people are learning at the same time and working together. And, hey, let's talk at night and make sure we go over some of this information. So tomorrow we really nail it. And what I learned working for the company that I work for is that we would be trained for a month before we'd ever go to a home. We would sit in the office, learn every day, and just get used to the team, sit with the accounting department, sit with the training department, sit with the operations team, and we would go to each little part of the company, get to know everybody, feel like ingrained, and get paid for training. And then once they set us loose, we were like part of the team. Like we want to pay back the company all they've invested in us over this last month. We learned great things, we grew as people, and that's like setting up people for success from the get-go and making them feel a part of the team before you set them loose into the wild world. There is key to making sure people, are really doing the best they can for you out there when you're not watching them, and making sure they're doing the right thing when no one's looking too, setting them up for that kind of feeling that they can have part of the team like that.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I think that's a step that I see a lot of failure in that step. And I mean, the fifth step you guys have here, and I think I want to focus a little bit more on this one, is the one that I think as an industry we've not done well at, and it's retain. And I have a little part that I want you guys to focus on a little bit, and we talked about a little bit before. We've commoditized our industry, very easily. A lot of times we have this top talent, we send them loose. There's no culture feel. It's basically just a job. It's a paycheck, and that's it. And we wonder why they go to another job and get cherry picked for a little bit more money. And so talk a little bit about that retain piece and why we've kind of been terrible as an industry with this piece.
It's my favorite part, truly. I mean, because I almost think of it like, imagine you're in the desert and you're tasked with getting a big old bucket of water, and you have to find this water. And you go through all this work and you do it and you feel great, and then you go pour this into your water holding bucket and it's got a leak. That's what I think some of us do in construction. We don't fortify our team, and I think that's so important. And it comes from a couple of things. One of the biggest components is to first understand how they're feeling. And for us, we call this an honest employee audit. And this is basically a technology that we have, but in essence, it's getting a clear understanding of what do they genuinely feel like? It's interesting, and Chris can talk about this too. But basically, we've sat down with owners and we've said, how do you feel about your team? Do you think they're happy? Do you think and managers? Yeah, I think we do a good job. They're not usually like I'm the best ever, but they're not like, oh yeah, no, I've got a lot of work to do. And when I've yet to get one of these back where I haven't personally looked at the results, it's a 10 scale typically. So it's anonymous. It goes to us essentially. And then so that way there's an open channel of communication and we relay it back to the company. But where I literally haven't read it and gotten physical like knots in my stomach because of some of the 2s and 3s that you see where it's like, do I feel like my work is valued and appreciated? 2. And you've got, 5 to 7 or 20 or 30 employees and you're seeing patterns and trends and you're going, oh my gosh, if you lost these 3 or 4 or 5 people tomorrow, your business is like you're one aggressively smart and strategic company who wants to poach your people away from everything you've worked for vanishing. Right. And so, we have to really, really understand the importance of this. And I had a mentor of mine years ago and he said, nothing changes until the unsaid is spoken. And it's such a powerful, powerful piece when it comes to retention because there's so much, nobody ever, and I'm sure we can all relate to this. Chris, especially, we've talked about this before, but nobody quits the day they quit. We have to know this as business owners. We have to know this as managers. Nobody quits the day they quit. Where it's a slow process where you're like, I'm not happy. I don't like this. And then it's that one thing they say, or as a manager, the one thing the boss does. And you're like, I'm done. I've had it. Right. Yeah. And we analyze that one little moment. So we're like, okay, what took place directly before John quit? Yeah, and it's like, John quit over the course of 6 months. It was when he didn't get a phone call or any acknowledgement on his birthday. And when he was late because his wife was in labor and he didn't tell you because you don't care as a company, and he was an hour late that day and you just yelled at him and didn't ask what he understood. Or, it's like there's all those pieces. And so when we take the time to really understand what our team is thinking, and again, this all sounds very theoretical. It's like, yeah, that sounds great. But we have a process for the honest employee audit where it's literally we send it, we get it back, we show you. But in essence, the core thing as a business owner or manager we need to know and think about is, are we genuinely taking the time to understand how they feel? That's the first part, because we got to know where we are. And once we do that, then it's how do we increase happiness? How do we increase for 2 reasons? And here's what's beautiful, Jeremy, and you led up to this perfectly, is that we want to get back to a conversation of employee maximization. And the reason we don't have this conversation is because we spend so much time thinking about, here's the paradigm in construction. I don't have enough people, right? If I have a missing person, that's a 0% output. Right. So I'm happy now as a business owner or manager to have a 40% output. Right. When I said earlier, the modern day gold rush is getting every single person on the team to output at 100%. Well, how do we do that? We understand what makes them happy. We truly care. The amount of team members who will stay with the company because they understand that company understands it. I've done this. I've literally done interviews when we were building out the course. I've done thousands of them. You know what fascinates me when I talk to somebody who will never leave their company? They cite examples of what that company did. They'll say, no amount of money will take me away from this company. I said, you sure? Are you open to a meeting? Can I meet with you? No, I can't. My manager was there when I had my baby. I mean, they've done everything for me. They helped me. They co-signed on my mortgage. They anytime I've ever had an issue, they've handled it. And so I've had literally, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of those conversations. And so the common thread is my company understands and listens. Okay. And then not only do they do that, but then they do these small other things to make me feel special. They'll acknowledge me on my birthday. One thing you can do is, and we've done this and talk about it, but you can have little poker chips made up with your company logo, and then you can design a wheel. And we have this at DeBar Masonry, and we've shown how to do this. But essentially all you do is you have a bunch of small prizes, little things, $10 7-Eleven gift card. You might have one big prize that's like, 200, like it's not money driven. And anytime somebody does something good in your company, you give out these little poker chips, right? Hey, great job showing up late. Great. and you can price it. If you're a smaller company and you're financially concerned about the implications, you can price all these very low to a point where you can hand them out for any time somebody does something good.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's the same concept. It's not, none of this is per se rocket science. It's just, how do I do it? Where do I do it? And frankly, none of us were taught this. I mean, I grew up where, I used to mix mortar, and if it was too wet, they throw it off the scaffolding. I'm sure you can relate to some of these stories,
Exactly. No, I mean, I think you're totally right. I mean, the culture piece is my favorite because, we've gotten away as an industry with such a toxic, gruff, no reward business. And it all comes down to people. And that's what I love about what I'm doing with US Construction Zone is all about people. Like they're people. Of course they want to be rewarded. They want to be patted on the back. I don't care if they look gruff or they're big or they're manly. Nah, it doesn't matter. They want to be told that they did a good job. They want to be told in front of their peers. All these it's just human nature stuff that we think if we reward them in that way, they're going to work less hard. When it's the exact opposite.
Yep.
You reward them, they're going to work harder. You know what I mean? And so I speak to that a little bit. Why are we not figuring that part out?
Yeah, everyone wants to feel acknowledged and heard. And those are the two things that are always low when we do these surveys. They don't feel heard, or they don't feel like their voice helps the company, or they don't feel like they're part of the growth of the company. And those are the ones where like, it's not hard to listen to someone. You just have to put the time in and make the effort to actually sit with people. And I think, growing the team is important too, but growing the individuals is important. Some of the best things I had at my old company was that they would give us a book, like a self-help book kind of thing. And I would never buy a self-help book. I'm thinking, hey, I got it all covered, but I get a self-help book and then I read it. And then we have a discussion about it a month later, 20 of us in a room, and we talk about it and we get open about it and our feelings, and we grow as individuals. And as we grow it as individuals together, we grow as a team. And just putting that little bit of effort, you buy 30 books. What does 30 books cost when you know your team is going to grow with you and work harder and gain knowledge from that experience, not just from the book, but the experience of doing it together. So that ongoing education, ongoing team building, events, taking people out, showing them a good time, and just really putting money back into the team and not just the business is really, really important.
Yeah. Again, investing in people. It seems, again, it's not rocket science, like you said, Matt, but we just get so in our habits and so used to what culture we had. And I think that's what's cool about that survey is like, hey, you don't know where to go until you know where you're at, right? So let's figure out where we're at. And let's not take offense to it. Let's figure out where we're at, and then let's implement some steps to get to that better place. I think 100%. that phase right there, that survey phase, people are afraid of it, right? They're like, I don't want to even know. Like that, I don't want to know. Can we skip that step, please?
It's like going to the doctor, you're scared of the results, but once you get those results, you're going to have to put some work in to make it. And when you're starting a hiring campaign, I always tell people it's like going to the doctor. You got to get a physical before you run a marathon to make sure your heart don't explode. So let's do a competitor audit. Let's see what the market in our area is like. Let's do a employee audit just to see where our inward market is, like what's going on in both of those and where we can meet in the middle before we even start this campaign. So we cover all those bases and we don't, our heart doesn't explode halfway through from the stress of it all. Let's figure out what we're doing right and wrong, and then use that to move forward and get some more people in here.
And the biggest objection to all this that we typically get is you're saying, I'm a business owner, I'm a business manager, I don't have time. And when you look at the study of changing habits or human behavior, right? We look at its replacement. Like you use the example of like quitting smoking. They say, if you give somebody something else to hold or something else, like you're replacing the habit. And so I look at the hiring and retention side, and I say, all we have to do is take a few hours a week of your focus on sales and transition that into, I'm not saying that you need to take more time. I'm saying take some of the focus from sales and marketing and dedicate a little bit more to hiring and retention. Ask yourself to take 30 minutes a week with your team and sit down and say, how did we make everyone on the team feel better? Because if you can do this, we got to understand, I think the best way to think about this, simply put, is if you make one sale in a company, think of all the human touch points in this, right? So a lead comes in, somebody answers the phone, Somebody schedules a salesperson to go out. Salesperson goes out. There's somebody who's doing the physical work, somebody who's doing billing and invoicing. You have all these. So you have 7 touch points, right? 6, 7 touch points for every one sale. So borrow a little bit of the time and the energy you spend on sales and marketing and invest it in this area, and you will see exponential growth, because that one hire might be with your company 20 years. That
Right.
sale's done in a week, a month, a year, depending on the company and how big you are. So it blows my mind that we don't focus on. Imagine that. Think of a hire as a sale. I make a sale. I bring in a new leader, a new project manager, a new estimator. I've made a sale that reaps rewards for my company for
Right.
20 years if I'm doing these things right.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Well, guys, I think that this program is very well thought out. I want to compliment you guys on the details. I think it's exactly what we need as an industry. So, any last parting words before we get into your fantastic offer here?
No, I'm just grateful for everybody that tuned in and listened. I think when it came time to put this course together, I went to one of the biggest course makers in the country, and they said, I don't think contractors will take a course. And every time I attend something like this, and I see people that are innovators, that want to learn, that want to consume, like, I believe this industry is ready for a jump, and I'm genuinely excited for who's here and what you're doing, Jeremy, and what we get to be a part of, and you inviting us, because I don't think people understand the construction industry like those of us that are in it. And I think it's a special time. It's a special opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt, guys. Again, I appreciate you guys being here. I want to see if I can do something here. And can you see the screen there, Matt and Chris?
Hey, that looks familiar.
Yeah. So I wanted you guys to introduce this a little bit. Obviously these are the things we just talked about. Like the clear understanding, the find, vet, hire, retain. But I really want you guys to focus on this last section, which I think is super awesome. So talk to it a little bit.
Yeah, so we put together a special offer for you inviting us here to kind of launch the course and get in front of people that want to learn, that are action takers, that want to grow. And so anybody here that's listening, that stayed till the end, that wants to develop in the space, we've put together a 50% discount. So we have the code there. The link is going to be somewhere here. I don't know if they can click on
it in the chat right now on LinkedIn, but we'll also, if you guys have, actually, it's kind of a strange link, isn't it? We'll just put it in the chat right now for those who are on LinkedIn, and we'll also be emailing it out to everybody so that everybody has this piece as well as the link, so that everyone knows how to get it. If all else fails, you always have me, Jeremy at usconstructionzone.com. What's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
You could email me, Chris at thecontractorconsultants.com.
Okay.
And I'm happy to speak to anybody about anything involved in here. I'm happy to hop on a quick call if anyone has more questions or anything else that we can help with. That's what we're here for, is to help.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. It was a wealth of information. I think everyone's going to take something from this and be able to use it wisely in our business. And honestly, it's such an important subject matter. And, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you guys. Thanks for being here. And we'll be having more talks. We'll figure out some more ways to partner up in the future. So thanks again for being here, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Happy holidays.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. Well, thank you guys for being here on another episode of Construction Executives Live. I am your host, Jeremy Owens. Again, if you have anything that you need from me, if you have any future topics of interest or some people you think I need to reach out to, Jeremy at usconstructionzone.com. Again, thank you for being here. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Reach out to somebody today. That's your homework, and we'll see you next time. Bye.